Woo! Sometime, baby. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun tonight. Okay. You know, I'm lucky to be here tonight. I had a little accident on the freeway. Who do you think crashed right into the back of me? Phil Harris. Yeah, just lucky we weren't in our cars. What a party I went to. I went to a party last night, but I think I stayed too late because it was about 5 o'clock this morning when I had to sneak into the house. About noon today, I woke up in the guest room. Whose, I don't know. But boy, it was a guest room. And Jeannie and I, we had such a nice breakfast. We sat down together, had our regular breakfast, black coffee and a fight. Gotta get her mother out of there, you know. But you know, looking back on our marriage, stick an E in there. I gotta admit, Jeannie's made me a wonderful wife. Of course, I used to be a wonderful husband. Get him out of there. Get them flies off of me. And now, don't you go away, because here's a nice fellow to tell you who my guests are.
The Dean Martin Show, starring Petula Clark, Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, Don Rickles, Flip Wilson, and Les Brown and his band of renown.
Nobody but a fool would love you after the way you done me. Broke every vow you made me, broke every rule. Would lie awake all night, crying till you were out of sight. Loving you with all his might. Nobody but a fool. I don't know what it was made me touch you like I did. Stars got in my eyes, either rocks got in my head. All I knew was your two lips kissed me heavenly. Till yesterday those tender lips kissed goodbye to me. Nobody but a fool would love you after the way you done me. Broke every vow you made me, broke every rule. Would lie awake all night, crying till you were out of sight. Loving you with all his might, nobody but a fool. Tried to tell me how you'd hurt me, I suppose. But I was blind as any bat, deep as any pose. Oh, you clawed me like a tiger, I loved you like a lamb. And knowing I still do just shows me up for what I am. Nobody but a fool would love you after the way you done me. Broke every vow you made me, broke every rule. Would lie awake all night, crying till you were out of sight. Loving you with all his might, nobody but a fool. Nobody but a fool. I don't believe this kid's beautiful. This kid sings a song. Yes, sir. If Rembrandt were alive today, he'd want to paint this kid's voice. And we got a great show for you tonight. My pal Don Rickles is here. Yeah, he's here. He's a funny man. Hope he shows up. And Petula Clark. Boy, is she here. That's some kind of girl. And let me tell you, She was wearing a mini skirt. There was nothing to it. You could pack it in a tea bag. And Flip Wilson is here. You'll love him because he's a real funny man. And the sweethearts of the Golden West, Roy Rogers and Ronald Reagan. Not Ronald Reagan. Don't do that to me. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, they're here. It ain't my fault, honey. They stuck it in there. Ronald Reagan? Oh, yeah. How's your death, Valley? Listen, but these two wonderful people. No, Roy and Dale, they're so nice. Last night they had me over to the ranch, and they said they'd barbecue anything I like. But it didn't work out. The ice cubes kept melting. I had a little trouble finding their ranch. Either the car was blind or me, and I'll tell you something. I couldn't find... They told me when I got to Victorville to follow the white line. I followed the white line for 12 miles before I found out it was a cow with a slow leak. I want to tell you, you have all heard of singers who can shatter glass. Well, here's something real different. A comedian who can shatter a glass. Yet last time I saw him, I laughed so hard, I dropped it. Mr. Flip Wilson.
I want to destroy a myth. That's what I want to do. It's this mistaken belief that people have that entertainers go from city to city, and wherever they're appearing, girls mob them and tear their clothes off and ravish them. When? Now, I admit that you meet a lot of girls, but you gotta be careful. After the incident that happened to me in Chicago a couple of months ago, let me tell you, it's the last night of the show. One of the guys in the band says to me, there's gonna be a party tonight after the show. You wanna go to the party? So I say, yeah, I wanna go to the party. So he says, you gotta bring your own date. Everyone has to bring their own date. So I tell him, wow, I don't know if I can make it now. I only know one young lady here in town. I doubt if she can get ready on such short notice. He said, look, he said, I got a girl's name in my address book. Yeah, here it is. Her name is Lulu. She has her own car, sports car, white wall tires, stereo, stick shift, seat folds back into a bed. Said she'll pick you up, bring you to the party, and take you home. I'm pretty sure no one's asked Lulu. Thought runs through my mind, how come no one's asked Lulu? I say to him, I said, how does she look? He said, wait till you see that car. White wall tires, stereo, stick shift, seat folds back into a bed. I said, but how does she look? He said, she'll pick you up, bring you to the party, and take you home. I said, well, what does she look like? He said, you want to go to the party or don't you? He gives me a number. It's a 5-digit number. I go to the phone, dial 4 digits, and Lulu answers. 4 digits. She said, yeah, I'll go. She picks me up. We go to the party. I'm in the party about 15 minutes when the host comes over. He said, look, I want to talk to you. He said, come here. I said, did you bring Lulu? You bring the broad who looks like someone hit it in the face with a bag of nickels? So I said, yeah, what about it? He said, get her out of here. I said, I don't want her in my party. I said, she's been here 15 minutes and she started 3 arguments. So I tell him, well, why not speak to those other people? Talk to them, make them leave her alone, and she'll be all right. He said, look, I'm not speaking to anyone else. You get her out of here. He said, she just smacked Sonny Liston. Sonny's looking for the guy that brought her to the party. I said, you tell her to meet me at the car. When Lulu arrives at the car, she wants me to drive. I can't drive. I've been drinking. I'm not going to get behind that wheel when I've been drinking. I know how I drive after I've had a few. I've already promised myself, if I drive, I'm not riding in there. She's drunk, she can drive. So we leave the party. Lulu's driving. And I notice she's holding the wheel with one hand, and on her lap, she has a small brown bag. Holding the wheel, the bag. There's an intersection, a red light. Lulu ran the light. Get it? She ran that light. Then she came back and got the car. She ran the light, a policeman saw us, he chases us, pulls us over, he approaches the car, the officer's a perfect gentleman. He approaches the car, he said, lady, you ran the light back at the intersection. But in this instance, I'm not gonna give you a ticket. I'm merely gonna warn you and suggest that in the future, when you're approaching an intersection, that you exercise a little more caution. She said, I did what? I ran what light? She said, I didn't run any light. This looks to me like police brutality. The officer said, lady, don't get upset. I'm not going to give you a ticket. It's only a warning. Don't get upset. She said, what do you mean, don't get upset? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving along here drunk. He turns back to the officer and says, you can't give me a ticket for nothing. How much is a nothing ticket? She said, I didn't run any light. That light didn't change till I was in the middle of the intersection. She said, I saw the light, and I saw you. And I saw you see me. And you saw me see you see me. This is the same way that ride started in Los Angeles. Now I realize how critical this thing's becoming. It's up to me to straighten it out. So I lean over and I say, officer, she ran the light. I realized there was a possibility of her running the light, and I tried to warn her. But before I'd gotten it out, she'd passed through the intersection. So I appreciate your not giving us a ticket, leaving it at the warning stage, and she's sorry. She said, I'm what? What do you mean? How are you going to tell this man that I'm sorry? She said, I started this argument with the officer. I don't need you to sit there and Ralph Bunch my argument. I said, I'll handle my problems. You're sitting there with a bag of LSD on your lap.
How's it been going, baby? Listen, hey, now, don't you go away because we got a lot more show right after the station break with my wonderful guest, Petula Clark, and Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. They'll be back, and my pal, Don Rickles. He's going to come on, and we're going to have such a fun time, you see. Once in a while, Don Rickles is coming.
Wait a minute. Hold it.
Hold
it.
Hold what?
Hold it.
Hold what?
What is this with my pal? The show is half over, and I haven't even been on yet. I mean, what...
You are my pal.
Good lines. You have a lot of good lines. I gotta tell you something, Dean.
What?
Really, from my heart. I'm not going anyplace with this show. You're supposed to have feelings for me. I've been watching the show, and so far, let me put it to you another way. It's a flop. It's not making it.
But I'm saving you for the finish.
The finish? Huh, are you kidding? You know why the people are here? It's free. That's why. You people know it. It's a free show. This is the overflow from Let's Make a Deal. What do you think of that? I want you to. I want you to hit me. I'll press charges. What do you think of that? I want you to lay a hand on me, dummy. You'll have a lot of trouble on your hands.
Micron.
Micron, huh?
Micron.
Find out what that means.
Micron.
You're gonna be the head nurse. Now, I'll tell you something, Dean.
What?
You think people are crazy about you? They're not crazy about you. They think you're Tony Martin. That's why they're crazy about you.
Really?
You're going, good lines, really. Leave that out. Leave out all those things. Listen,
What?
The audience thought they were gonna win something. You gotta give these people something. You people came in, you want to win something, right? You didn't come in. That's right, gang, there he is, Chiefy Dean. Doesn't go for $3. Why don't you give him a wallet with a Chester Morris picture in it, huh? I mean, folks, go home, watch television, watch Lyle Talbot on a travelogue tonight picking tulips. I mean this. You are a bad performer, Dean. Now, I'm a friend. I mean this from my heart.
She's gonna be next, Petula Clark.
Petula Clark?
I know, I'd back you up.
Touch me one more time and you go down. Why don't you do what you know best? Stagger around like a dummy for a half hour. You're bothering
come on,
people.
don't be so we ain't exactly total strangers, you know. Come on. There go my socks.
That's right. Stamp your feet, become a dummy. Now, I'll tell you something, Dean.
What?
I didn't have to be on this show.
Yes, you
no,
did.
No, I didn't. I had an offer for Ed Sullivan, but I turned it down. because my bear died. What do you think of that? That's right, my bear died, and I didn't have to be on this show. I had a lot of offers, you know what I mean? Could have had Farm Reports, Captain Kangaroo, and I could have been on Whirlybirds. But I picked this show because I thought you were going to be kind to me. And I'm getting fed up with you broads. What do you think of that?
But you got a nice dressing room, a beautiful dressing room. Didn't I give you that, pal?
Dressing room? Dean, are you serious?
No, I'm Italian. Okay. One for me.
I didn't see the humor in that. And I'll tell you something, Dean. I happen to be sharing the dressing room with Trigger. What do you think of that? How would you like to go in the bathroom and see... I mean it. Did you ever look at your sink and see hay on top of it? This is a little embarrassing, Dean. I don't need this. I got a stall shower, and he thinks it's his stall. I'm getting fed up, Dean. I don't want to be on this anymore. I used makeup tonight. He ate it. Now, where am I going?
Hey, in the street.
When you're feeling sad and lonely, there's a service I can render. Tell the one who loves you only I can be so warm and tender. Call me, but don't be afraid you can call me. Maybe it's late, but just call me. Tell me and I'll be around. When it seems your friends desert you, I'm right here, baby, thinking of you. I'm the one who will never hurt you. Maybe that's because I kinda love you. Call me. Don't be afraid, you can call me. Maybe it's late, but just call me. Tell me and I'll be around. Now don't forget me, 'cause if you let me, I will always stand by you. You've got to trust me, that's how it must be. There's so much that I can do. Now if you call, I'll be right with you. You and I should be together. Take this love I'm burning to give you. I'm gonna be at your side forever. Call me. Don't be afraid, now you can call me. Maybe it's late, but just call me. Tell me and I'll be around. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I will always stand by you. There's so much that I can do. If you call, I'll be right here. You and I should be together. Take this love I'm burning to give you. I'm gonna be at your side forever. Call me. Don't be afraid, you can call me. Maybe it's late, just call me. Tell me and I'll be around. Call me, call me, call me, and I'll be around.
Move it, hon. Howdy, buckaroos. Welcome to Art Linkletter's house party. Get a load of this joint, huh? Looks like graduation day at a karate school. Should have been here last night when the fight started. They were hitting each other over the head with bottles and chairs and throwing things through the windows. It was ridiculous. Wrecking furniture, women screaming. The joint looked like Frank Sinatra's rumpus room. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. All right? Okay, dummies. Everybody up, dummies. Let's move it, huh, gang? Gotta catch the 895 to Newhart. Just do your job. We don't need any of that, sweetheart. We don't need any method extra. Just do your job and get on. Where does it say dummy cowboy does barbell bits? Okay, folks. Now I'll tell you the real story. See, most of these kids, you guys, right here, you were playing blackjack, right? And drinking gin. Right, good. You got a lot of good lines in this so far. Once in a while, belch. Do something so I'll know you're here. Okay, you guys were playing cards. Now, you were drinking blackjack and playing gin. I didn't write this. I only repeat what I'm told. Okay. Well, as I was telling you about last night, I was here behind the bar with everything nice and peaceful like. And who do you think came in the room? Da-da-da-da. The Oklahoma Kid. It's his birthday. Happy birthday. A lot of humor there. You're a little cranky, right, sweetheart?
Yeah, baby.
What? Leave out, baby, huh? What's the matter? Didn't you have your afternoon nap?
Did you read the record? What's that?
I'm getting fed up with you, sweetheart. Okay, dum-dum, what'll it be?
Oh, I'll have the usual glass of milk. Are you sure this is my cue card right here?
You should get an Academy Award for reading that line.
Now, look, I've been riding all day, and I'm plumb tuckered out. You mind if I sit down and rest my tucker?
I don't care what you rest. Listen, you shouldn't have come back. If the sheriff finds out you're here, there'll be a shooting.
Why?
Get this acting,
Don't
folks.
move, kid.
It's Roy! It's Roy! Roy, since I'm a kid, I got all his pictures. It's Roy! Hope your ranch blows up.
Don't move, kid.
Good reading, Roy. Good. Gonna get your water gun and your own pony.
Kid, just 5 minutes to get out of town.
Oh, I can't do that, Sheriff. You know, the freeways are murder just out.
40 million shows, I get booked on a bomb. Once in a while, Roy, read my lips so you know what's happening. Want to fight? Fight fair and square.
How's that?
How's that? See, dummy, that's why you'll never be a star. You're a babbling yogi. You stand back to back.
Oh.
And start walking when I count to 3.
Oh.
And then start shooting.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay.
Good. Your O was better, Roy. Hey, watch the beads. You'll ruin his back. Okay. First, I gotta climb on the bar. I feel like I'm in Coney Island in the rope. Okay. You ready? Wait a second. The gun could go off and ruin me. Good take. Print that, Harvey. Isn't this fun, Roy? You're staying up with the grown-ups and everything. You'll shoot when I'm ready.
Shoot the little jerk. Kill the little jerk. Where does it say in the script? Kill the little jerk.
I hope you get a macaroni rash. I got a lot of good lines coming up, Roy. I'll make you feel at home, okay?
Okay.
Okay, boys. 1, 2, 3. You're shooting me in the leg, dummy. Huh? Never touch me when a name works, huh?
Oh, you can't die.
No. Watch it, huh?
Shoot him for it.
Good, Dale. Jump in when you feel anything.
You can't die.
You stink in this, I'll tell you.
I don't do requests. You can't die.
Why not?
Well, because a good man. Yes, sir.
Because a good man nowadays is hard to find.
And Rickles, Roy Rogers, Dale Evans. Huh? Beautiful.
And I'll be here waiting for you next week. That's your line, Dean. Then you try to read it. Try this. Pussycat. Dada. Sandbox.
Sandbox.
Mummy.
Go in the bathtub, play with your duck. And just keep all them cards and let us come in, folks.
You better believe it, Daddy. And little old Jeannie gonna love you, too.
Jeannie and I...
Many thanks, Daddy, because Mommy loves you. I say that from my heart.
Get him out of here!
Kiss my Farina. You better believe it, Daddy. Robert Cleveland Alexander.
It's over. I'm washing up and going in the car.
Everybody, give me a downbeat. Everybody, whoa, everybody, love somebody sometime.
Isn't he off yet?